Hey everyone, welcome back to my podcast talking about everything psychology. I'm your host, Lester Gonzalez, and as a psychology enthusiast, you will learn more about self-improvement, personal growth, success, and how psychology plays a crucial role in our lives. Please leave a like, follow, as it will help grow this podcast. And that being said, for today's topic, I want to dive deeper into the psychology of self-control and also understanding the mindset of composure. So, self control is often a unique behavior when we examine the cognitive, emotional, and behavioral factors in life. Self control helps enable us to resist impulses while making choices that align with our long term goals. Self control is often essential for achieving personal success, and it's vital to utilize self control to benefit our own personal well being. So, as I discuss this idea of self-control, today I want to talk to you guys about the key psychological factors that play a role in self-control. So the first psychological factor I want to talk about is willpower. So willpower is critical when developing self-control, right? So this involves the ability to override impulses and make more reasonable and responsible choices in life. Willpower will help us practice and strengthen our minds to control ourselves. And having control is crucial, especially when it comes to our own selves and what we have to do. And this trait involves having the strength of character, understanding everything around us while also being very mindful of things we are doing. And willpower is, often a characteristic that's very dependent on how we showcase ourselves. So willpower also requires our own self-discipline. And it's the ability to keep ourselves composed and responsible in any situation possible. Responsibility is the biggest factor when it comes to self-control and willpower because you don't want to do things that are in the wrong. You have to ethically know what's right and wrong. So, which brings me to my next psychological factor of emotional regulation. It's inevitable that our emotions influence our own self-control. Our emotions is everything when it comes to our self-mind, and learning how to regulate our emotions effectively allows us to make more wiser and responsible decisions in the long term. Our minds should always be aware. I believe, it's crucial in certain outcomes, and the more we think about this, the more we'll act upon things that are in a more reasonable manner. One good example I feel, or that I could think at the top of my head, would be when we feel angry or frustrated over something at work, and we recognize that feeling of being angry and frustrated, and we understand that it could ruin our day, and in fact ruin the rest of the shift, worst case scenario. And having that emotional regulation will help us be aware of that negative outcome and prevent ourselves from feeling angry. So self-awareness is critical, which brings me to my next point of self-monitoring, which are pretty similar. I mean, I guess they're pretty much the same, but you get what I'm saying. Like now that we finished talking about emotional regulation, this is where, self-monitoring comes into play. So self-control begins within our own self-awareness and self-monitoring. We must be aware of the impulses and behaviors to exert control over them. As we self-monitor and understand the negative emotions and outcomes of not having self-control, then we will find ways to work around them. The moment we begin to control ourselves, we will find ways to problem solve. Problem solving is one of the biggest traits in terms of self-control and finding ways to keep ourselves composed. Because examples would be to journal or maybe listen to music, track certain habits, and being mindful of things. Then the more we are aware of our feelings and surroundings, the more we will develop self-control. Self-control comes within our own personal minds and decisions, which brings a cognitive value. And I want to talk about the different cognitive strategies. So utilizing cognitive strategies will enhance our mental health and self-control. These strategies include planning, goal setting, problem solving, and self-talk to prevent these temptations. And again, we are constantly finding ways to seek better outcomes when it comes to developing self-control. And these cognitive strategies, like I mentioned, like goal setting, problem solving, are developed through a disciplined action being the first initial step. We need discipline. I'll say that again. We need discipline because if we can't have the discipline to use these strategies, then it will be so much harder to develop good self-control in the long run. And everyone has different cognitive strategies, but once we find that strategy that works best for us, we must use that to our advantage. Which brings me to my final point within the psychological factors of self-control, and it would be to constantly train our own self-control, which could help us in the long term and develop through training and practice. So there will always be times where it will be hard to control our temptations, and sometimes it'll be too much to bear. I'm sure we've had these times where we try to control ourselves, from certain things, and it'll be hard to hold back. But keep in mind that it will always be hard in the beginning in trying to keep ourselves composed or controlled when we start. But self-control involves consistency and always finding ways to better ourselves. The more we stay consistent and find the best ways to control ourselves, the more it will be easier to develop self-control in the long run. So consistency, putting in the reps, and practicing within ourselves of holding back from these temptations are a critical part because the decision is on us. We have the power to make the decisions, and it is up to us. It is our choices. Everything involves around a disciplined mind, and having a disciplined mind through self-control involves taking action in resisting those temptations. So overall, the psychology of self-control dives deeper in understanding the different cognitive, emotional, and societal aspects of controlling certain impulses. This will allow us to make choices that lead to long-term success and well-being upon ourselves. Remember, self-control is it varies from person to person, and overall, developing and improving self-control is an important skill that can positively impact various aspects of our life and behavior. So that is all I have for you guys today in terms of self-control and the psychology of self-control. And I thank you all so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. For more psychology content, stay tuned on this podcast. Make sure to leave a like, follow, and or subscribe. It will really help me out as I love speaking my knowledge and mentorship for all of you. And that being said, I look forward to growing with all of you. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. And as always, I wish you all a blessed day.